Gloria never raised her voice. Not in 15 years. So when she called me at 4:12 on a Tuesday afternoon and said, "Don't go home, baby. Not yet," I pulled my car to the shoulder like someone had yanked the wheel. Engine still running. Hands at 10 and 2. 8 minutes from my own front door. I said, "Tell me." She was quiet for a beat. Then, "He has people here. His mother. A man with a briefcase. And a woman from some property company. They're at your mother's kitchen table with paperwork, Meredith. A lot of paperwork." I watched a school bus pass on the other side of the road. Counted the windows. 14. My mouth was dry, but my hands weren't shaking. And I remember noticing that, being almost clinical about it, like I was observing myself from a slight distance. "Are you still there?" Gloria asked. "I'm here. What do you want me to do?" I didn't answer right away. I sat with it. The engine idled. A sprinkler on someone's lawn ticked back and forth. And what I felt wasn't shock. It was the particular stillness of something you've been bracing for finally arriving. A dread that had lived low in my chest for 3 years, suddenly justified. The call lasted 47 seconds. I know because I looked. I should have been surprised. But some part of me had been counting down to that phone call for 3 years. Like dislike. I met Calvin Yates when I was 28. He was 31, broad-smiled, easy in rooms where I was careful. We married a year later. I loved him the way quiet women love loud men, with gratitude that someone chose to make noise on our behalf. The house at 412 Wexford Lane was never part of that equation. My mother bought it in 1993 for $210,000. I took my first steps in that kitchen, lost my first tooth on that porch railing. When Calvin and I moved in after the wedding, it felt natural. It was home, but it was her home first. In the fall of 2019, my mother was diagnosed with pancreatic cancer. She was 61. She handled it the way she handled everything. Quietly, with a plan. One afternoon, she asked me to drive her to an attorney's office on Maple Creek Road. We were there for 90 minutes. She signed papers I didn't fully understand yet. An irrevocable trust. The house placed inside it. Me named as sole beneficiary. I asked her why the rush. She looked at me the way she sometimes did when I was being young. "Love him," she said. "But don't bet the roof on it." I thought she was being dramatic. She was being precise. She died 6 months later, in March. The house stayed in the trust. The trust stayed in my name. And Calvin kept living in it like a man who believed the floor beneath him was shared. I never corrected him. I never thought I'd need to. The cracks didn't come all at once. They came in 3 clean incidents over 3 years, spaced just far enough apart that a woman who wanted to trust her husband could explain each one away. I did. For a while. The first was a business card in his sport coat pocket. Pinnacle Property Group. I was taking it to the dry cleaners. I put the card back and said nothing. The second was a phone call I overheard 8 months later. Calvin in the garage, voice low, using the word equity in a sentence that also contained the phrase, "move forward." He hung up when I opened the door. Said it was a client. The third was the most careful. A Wednesday evening. Casual, his hand on my knee while we watched television. "Hey, babe, do you actually know whose name is on the deed? Like, legally?" I told him I'd have to check. He nodded. Didn't ask again. Then Gloria mentioned, in passing, that a man with a briefcase had come by the house on a Thursday while I was at work. Calvin had let him in. Gave him coffee. They'd talked for an hour in the living room. That was 14 months before the phone call. And it was enough. I found Nina Okafor through a colleague in our legal department. Trusts and estates. I wrote her a check for $2,500 on a Friday afternoon and told her I wasn't looking for a fight. I just wanted to understand what was mine and what could be touched. I didn't hire Nina to go to war. I hired her to know exactly what couldn't be taken from me. Like dislike. I called Gloria back 11 minutes later. By then she'd moved to the laundry room. Door closed, voice just above a whisper. She gave me the full picture. 4 people at my mother's kitchen table. Calvin. His mother, Diane, sitting at the head like she belonged there. A man in a gray suit Gloria didn't recognize. And a woman with a Pinnacle Property Group lanyard and a folder thick with comps. Calvin had told them the property was jointly held. He told them his wife was on board. The asking price, written on a sheet Gloria could see from the hallway, was $785,000. They were preparing to list my mother's house. I took pictures, Gloria said. Steady, matter of fact, like she was telling me she'd put the laundry in the dryer. 3 photographs, the listing agreement on the counter, a signature page with Calvin's name, a comp sheet with our address circled in blue ink. She sent them while we were still on the phone. I opened each one, zoomed in, read every line I could make out. My hands were still not shaking. I think some part of me had gone somewhere cold and efficient, a place where fury doesn't burn but calcifies into something useful. He'd picked a Tuesday. Tuesdays, I stay late for department reviews. I never get home before 6:15. He knew that. He'd built the whole afternoon around my absence, like a man laying a trap in his own house. Except it wasn't his house, and he'd miscounted the people who lived in it. He'd invited a lawyer into my mother's kitchen to sell my mother's house, and he'd scheduled it for the one afternoon I wasn't supposed to be there. He'd thought of everything, except Gloria. I didn't go home. I pulled into a gas station parking lot 2 miles past my turn and called Nina Okafor. She picked up on the second ring. I told her what Gloria saw. I told her about the listing sheet, the price, the signature page. She listened without interrupting, which is one of the things I pay her for. When I finished, she said 3 sentences that rearranged the rest of my life. The trust is irrevocable. He cannot sell property he does not own. Any listing agreement he signed is void on its face. I exhaled. Then she said the thing I'll carry with me for years. Meredith, do you remember the refinancing in 2021? The acknowledgement packet? Page 6 of 11. He signed it, his full legal signature confirming that the property is held in trust and that he has no ownership interest. He can't claim he didn't know. He told us he knew. I sat with that. Calvin's own handwriting, his own name in blue ink on a page he probably didn't read. Inside a stack his broker slid across a desk. He'd armed me without realizing it. 4 years ago, Nina asked me what I wanted to do. I told her, don't contact Calvin. Don't contact his mother. Don't contact his attorney. Send the cease and desist to Pinnacle Property Group, to the realtor. Let her be the one to call him and say the words. Nina sent the letter at 9:04 that evening. I know because she CC'd me. I drove to a hotel off the interstate. $129 for a king room with stiff sheets and a window facing the parking lot. I slept 7 full hours for the first time in months. Not because I had to leave, because I wanted him to believe he'd won for exactly 12 more hours. The call from Pinnacle came at 8:47 the next morning. I know because Calvin called me 6 minutes later, and I could hear it in his voice. The particular flatness of a man who just had a door closed in his face by someone he thought was on his side. I didn't answer. He called again at 8:59, then 9:03, then 9:11. 4 missed calls. I watched each one light up my screen from the hotel bed, still in last night's clothes, coffee going cold on the nightstand. On the 4th attempt, I picked up. I let him speak first. He started mid-sentence, the way people do when they've been rehearsing in the silence between rings. Meredith, I don't know what kind of misunderstanding. You signed page 6, Calvin. Silence. The specific silence of a man doing math he doesn't want to finish. I heard him breathe once. Twice. Then the line went dead. That afternoon, Gloria called me. Diane had phoned the house, screaming. Something about lawyers, about family, about how Meredith had always been cold and difficult. Gloria listened for 10 seconds and hung up. She told me about it the way someone reports the weather. I felt nothing but gratitude. By Thursday, 2 suitcases and a garment bag sat on the front porch. Gloria put them there. She didn't ask permission, and I didn't ask her to explain. Calvin collected them sometime before dark. He didn't ring the bell. He didn't fight the suitcases. That's how I knew he'd called his own lawyer and heard the same word Nina used. Void. Like, dislike. The divorce took 4 months. Calvin's attorney tried twice to argue the house should be considered marital property. Both times, Nina sent the same document back. Page 6 of 11. Calvin's signature. His own hand confirming what he'd spent 3 years pretending wasn't true. There was no third attempt. He got his half of our savings account and the car he'd leased in both our names. He did not get 412 Wexford Lane. It was never his to get. Life after was quieter than I expected. Not empty, just honest. Gloria still comes on Tuesdays. We drink coffee at the kitchen table where 4 strangers once spread their paperwork, and we don't talk about it unless one of us feels like it. Mostly we don't. A few weeks after the filing, I opened the fireproof safe in the hall closet to put the finalized trust documents back in order. I hadn't touched the original papers since my mother signed them. As I lifted the first page, a small yellow sticky note fell out from behind it. Her handwriting, slanting right the way it always did. The ballpoint pressed hard the way she always pressed. 2 words. Just in case. I stood in the hallway for a long time holding that scrap of paper. Then I walked to the kitchen and put it on the fridge, next to the grocery list, and a photo of her garden from the summer before she got sick. Just in case. She'd known. Mothers know.